We're in the stadium. Can you hear the crowd cheering as we make our way towards the finish line? Welcome to this Friday edition of our special elections update show. My name is Bongani Bingwa. Now, of course, the African Union today and SADC Observer Mission are largely convinced that these elections were free, fair and credible. They have noted some concerns like the low participation by young voters. The observers are due to make a formal declaration in a few weeks' time.
8th May 2019 South African national and provincial elections were peaceful, transparent, inclusive and credible.
The AU Election Observer Mission was led by Jakaya Kikwete, former president of Tanzania, comprising of a team including 4 electoral experts and support staff from various African Union member states. Presenting the summary of the Commission key findings, which included political environment and the electoral process, Kikwete commended, among others, ensuring the right of participation of women and persons with disabilities.
The AU mission was delighted to note the improvement made in the infrastructure and other measures that enabled persons living with disabilities to participate effectively in the electoral process. The mission commends the high level participation of women, who constituted 55% of registered voters.
However, the AU lamented the low participation by the youth in the elections. The media was not left behind, with the AU applauding the country's press freedom.
The mission lauds the prevailing press freedom in South Africa and noted with appreciation the way the state broadcaster accorded equitable coverage to the political parties.
The AU also complimented the IEC for the early opening of polling stations, except a few for reasons related to the late arrival of the voting material. The SADC Observer Mission in their summary gave the IEC a thumbs up for the manner in which the elections were carried out.
The atmosphere was orderly, calm and peaceful at all polling stations. Generally, no major instances of concern were observed. 89% of the polling stations we observed were easily accessible to all voters.
But there were challenges, it noted.
There were reports that the indelible ink was fading, leading to allegations of double voting, matters which the mission notes that the IEC is currently investigating.
SADC mission noted what it called a low youth turnout and said this was an area which required special attention. Leading the Electoral Institute for Sustainable Democracy in Africa, former Nigeria's President Goodluck Jonathan praised the manner in which the IEC has been constituted, saying it was quite unique. He also raised the issue of the removal of the indelible ink, resulting in double voting.
We as I didn't really observe that, but people are saying, people are even claiming on radio that they voted 2 times. For somebody to come on radio to declare that I've committed a criminal offense because the person wants to raise an issue that concerns the country, you cannot look down or play it low. And that's why we are raising it. We did not observe double voting.
SADC's final report, which will cover pre- and post-election, will be released within 30 days. And the AU report, containing the assessment details of the electoral process and recommendations, will be released in 2 months' time. Lehana Tsoteti, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Right, the issue of the possibility of multiple voting getting some attention from the international observers. Right, looking then at the leaderboard with about 78% of the vote in Gauteng in, the ANC sitting at around the halfway mark. Let's get some reaction from residents of the province. Our Maheketla Mohlabe is somewhere around Gauteng. A good evening to you, Maheketla. Reaction on the ground, the ANC almost through that line, that 50% mark. Of course, we've got about 12% left to still count. What are people saying in response on the ground?
Good evening to you, Bongani, as well as viewers at home. Well, I can tell you that it's bustling here in Alexandra. We are at Alexandra Plaza, where a lot of people actually are telling me that they are happy. They are looking forward to the result, the final outcome of these general elections. But what we have learned from Alexandra basically is that they have finished counting. In fact, they finished yesterday to count, and it's part of Region 7 in Johannesburg. And I'm told that about 73% voted for the ANC compared to 2014 general elections, where we saw 72% voting for the ANC. But of course, let's just hear from the people as to who they voted for and why. So thanks so much for joining me. Just tell me, who did you vote for and why?
I voted the EFF Galvalaure. Gibonangar maybe got decided Pedro Mo Alexandra. Obani ANC Rabona Ronan Tree Beregala, Caleri vote Ronan Tree Beregala. That's why I voted the EFF.
Just tell me some of the changes that you really want to see in Alexandra.
Yeah, Mo Alexandra and Torrenya wanted the changes. Renya wanted at least Grammy Shumo, at least Baconore, Ayala RDP. But Letrabeore, budget RDP, but if Maforina, Leona Renya by stop, at least maybe EFF, Egacono. Who decided to Alexander.
Thanks so much indeed, Bongani. The issue of employment in the township also coming out here, and of course the issue of housing, more especially for the elderly people who I'm told have been waiting for years to get proper housing. They are living in shacks with their family members. But let's just hear from some of the residents here. Sir, thanks so much for your time. We just want to hear from you. Who did you vote for?
Hello? Yeah. Then I voted then rest then ANC and that party. The problem is one, because then the rest we've been voting for the same party for a long time. And then we didn't benefit nothing. So, but this time they must look for this by when something he change, because now then rest then they must check, then most especially in Maspala, and then the interest too for then we will pass ebantwini. Ukuthi then abantu bawuzo ikhalo zabantu, and then if bahlezi lena bona from the parliament and abazi ebantwini ukuthi abantu bakhala ngani, bebangeke bazi ukuthi benza ngani, ukuthi ngokuthi imikhukhu iAlexander ihlanganile and it mix up Alexander for then long time, and then there's no changes, and then even a plan of Alexander abanayo, and then khona manje we need a plan lebazoza ngayo ukubuilda iAlexander, and then when they talking about the land, so mele bakhulume ngeland into ukuthi bazokhona ukuthi ubonise ukuthi iland abanikeza umuntu iland must be a paperwork, because mazini ukuthi then unikeza umuntu uJim no Jack uyangena laphana uthola ukuthi somebody else usuka etip slot une stand etip slot or maybe Orange Farm. It comes to Alexander, uthatha stand la Alexander uyaqeda uyaqashisa futhi. We having a problem about that, and then interest too. We've got a Tina then as a small business, as you see me strating, we're struggling so much, and then in a small business because then there's no way forward. And then a way forward letting us in then ukuthi sinida ukuthi babheke most then ama linear market ukuthi bangathila nawo kanjani, and then like ama pavement we're having a problem ama pavement. Some people they bathengisa extra on the street ama pavement without the metropolis ukuthi control in a good way, and then here a problem siba nayo.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks so much indeed, Bongani. Complaints coming out here, and these are the same complaints that we had during that particular protest just early last month. The issue of the mushrooming of shacks in Alexandra, that needs to be stopped. Also, the issue of land, it needs to be clarified in Alexandra. Perhaps it takes us back to the Alex Renewal Project, which was sometime stopped due to the lack of land, and that's one of the reasons that we had. So they need that clarified. Also, small businesses here, they are congested, so they need that to be attended to, and they also need visibility of officials on the ground so that they may be able to address these issues.
Right, Taheketa, I will leave it there with you in Alexandra. Very much a case of local issues around the country dominating voters' minds. Let's go now to Mpumalanga, where the ANC is sitting at just over 70% of the vote. It's a dip from 78% at the last national election. Of course, Mpumalanga, one of the so-called Premier League provinces. We're joined there live by our Tumelo Mashoko. Tumelo, very good evening to you. 100% of the vote in Mpumalanga, that's been counted. We know exactly what the picture looks like there. How are people reacting? How are people responding to what they're seeing?
Well, the IEC is telling us that all of the 1,772 voting stations, all of those votes have already been counted and also been tallied up. The ANC, as you said, is standing at 70%. They have dropped from what they're from the percentage of 78%. They're saying that they're disappointed, but they're very happy that they have won. They still reign the majority here in the province, and also they're being followed by the EFF. The EFF, they used to be on the third, but this time they've managed to actually double their numbers from 6% now to 12%. So the EFF, they're the official opposition for the ANC in the province, and the DA, which used to be the official opposition, they're only standing at 10%, which is a huge number from them because they have dropped quite a lot. But we're also seeing a party that we only seen once in the province. They have come back. We've seen now that the FF Plus have actually have like 2.4% coming into the province. So they are coming in strongly here into the province. So they will probably have a seat in the legislature here in Mpumalanga. Also, the Bragg party, it makes up the top 5 of the parties that actually did very well here. They're under 1%, but they have done very well because they last time they had a seat in the provincial legislature, so we're hoping they might have another seat in the provincial legislature. The EFF, because they used to have 2 seats in the legislature, they will probably have about 4 seats now in the legislature. But right now we are at the IEC. They have already packed and they're already gone, and they are. Because their work pretty much here is done, and now it's all left to the parties. And also we know that they have experienced problems, especially the IEC here in the province. We saw that just during the special votes when 2 of the IEC officials were found with ballot boxes outside, trying to put ballot papers into that ballot boxes. Those 2 officials were actually fired by the IEC, but we also seen a number of issues. Just today, they managed to track down 2 people that removed the ink after they voted, and they went again to vote, because one of them actually put a whole video on Facebook saying that he has voted and he's going to vote again, and removing the ink and all of that. So the police have managed to arrest those 2 people. They appeared in Barberton Magistrate Court this afternoon, but we understand that the police were doing their work to make sure that they tracked down those 2 people, because they found yesterday that they posted a video saying that they have voted and they voted twice. But now it's all about the parties, because we understand that now, because all of the voting has been done, all the parties have they know where they stand in terms of the numbers and the percentage, but now it's all up to them on what they have to do now. But we have seen over 17,000 of spoil votes here in the province, which is a huge number. So the province, it's just a huge number, which has taken a lot of votes maybe from parties that would have done very well, would have come into the fray, and also we could have seen a different numbers in terms of percentage on all of the parties. But that is one we have seen here in the province. But right now we understand that parties are all out, and all the people who have been working very hard throughout this election process. Now they are out. They are probably celebrating now because they have done very well, especially the EFF, which they have done very well, coming from 6% to 12%, which is a huge margin. And also the ANC, yes, they have lost, but they're still happy that they have managed to do very well.
Dumelo, we'll leave it there with you. Thank you very much for that update from Mpumalanga. 100% of those votes in now. It's up to the parties. The horse trading, the negotiating has begun. But of course, remember, it's not official until the IEC says it is. We'll crunch more of the numbers for you, give you a sense of what it all means, and try to figure out what may come next. Stay with us.
When South Africans go to the polls, SABC News gives you names you can trust. Sakina, Criselda, Peter, Stephen, Tsepiso, Francis, Blaine, Leanne. South Africa votes. Live coverage starts Wednesday at 6 a.m. on SABC News.
While South Africa's sixth general election had the entire country fixated on the leaderboard, results board results charts for days. While there were winners, losers and a few surprises, there were rude awakenings, sobering moments, joy, anger, relief and disappointments. Well, watch Unfiltered on the SABC News channel and SABC3 at 20:30 on Sunday. I'll see you then.
Solani Mkiva says that they believe that the king should be released and that they are not being opportunistic.
The last 4 years we have been engaging with government. It cannot be a post-colonial government that begins to jail a king in a context of what actually happened.
Bobby Solomons, he's the spokesperson of the Alex Shutdown Committee, the multi-billion rand Alexandra Renewal Project. Nothing came of that.
Community wants to know what really happened to the money.
The creative director of the label, Mansu, that of course means black is beautiful in Sesotho. What has been your experience in that regard, given some of the more established labels that you have managed to work with?
It is hard. 15 years is a long time. There's a lot of sacrifice for your family to make for you.
This is the thing. This is it this morning.
The SABC News mobile app is your one-stop digital portal to all the news you need. Stay connected with the latest in breaking news. Watch the SABC News channel along with clips and live streams of all the big news events. And listen to all the SABC News radio stations live, including podcasts and much more. Simply download the SABC News app to your Android or iOS device from either the Play Store or the App Store. SABC News, independent, impartial.
Welcome back. You're watching our special elections update show. We're looking at the major developments that have happened today. And I'm joined now, of course, by data analyst Michael O'Donovan. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, we've got the picture here on our screen looking at the national map with 94% of votes now in officially. We're beginning to get a clear sense of what the picture will look like. The ANC is sitting at 57% of the vote. I mean, in a way you could argue, Michael, this is no great shakes. This is more or less what some of the more credible polls had predicted.
Yeah, it's pretty much as expected. But more to the point, is actually very much in line with the downward trajectory of the ANC over the last 20 years. If you look back at these figures here, 70% of the vote in 2004.
Absolutely. The ANC is a party in decline. That's been very much the story of the last couple of general elections. But the interesting thing that, of course, we are beginning to also observe is the story of the Democratic Alliance. They'd consistently grown. If you look at the figures from 2004, from 12% thereabouts, then all the way up to 22% in 2014. They've kind of gone down a little at about 20% or thereabouts. What do you make of that?
Well, I make of that that they're the big losers in this election. They've been on an upward trajectory of growth. They did exceedingly well in 2016 local government elections, and suddenly that trajectory has been reversed. They're losing a lot of votes to parties like the Freedom Front Plus. So they end up shooting themselves in the foot. And as long as you do that, you're not going to win the race.
They'll argue that perhaps the voters that have maybe gone to the Freedom Front Plus, they could spin it and say, good riddance to those. We want to be a party that's for all South Africans. That's consistently their message. The question is it resonating particularly with the black electorate? Because that's where they want to go. Are they being seen as sincere, as being credible?
Well, the figures seem to indicate that they have garnered quite a bit of support in black areas. But I think that the saying that the Freedom Front Plus is benefiting from disaffected right-wingers is really missing the point. The way I interpret it is that those people who defected to Freedom Front Plus just happened to be able to find another home. In other words, the home that they were in, the DA, was no longer delivering what they thought. So one of the big stories about this whole thing is really about this voter turnout, which is 10% lower or 9% lower than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a big drop. And if you look at the surveys and all the other information, people were expecting a declining turnout, but not quite this big.
Let's look at the EFF now. As I say, we're sitting at almost 95% of the vote in. If you're looking at where the EFF finds itself, we're sitting at 1,654,000 votes, thereabouts in real terms. The last time around, in real numbers, they got about 1,169,000. So we're talking about a bump of just over 400,000 or thereabouts. I mean, a percentage sounds great. In real terms, is that a big number? Is that an impressive number?
Well, I don't know if anybody's going to be losing any sleep over that over the short term. In the last national government election, they got 6%. In the local government elections, they got 8%. This time they get 10%. If they get 12% in the next election, ANC for one can rest for a good number of elections. So they have become the official opposition in 3 provinces, which is to their credit. But each of those 3 provinces are heavily dominated by the ANC.
Here's the thing. A lot of the message of the EFF obviously addresses the plight of people who are unemployed, for example. They've had a big focus on the youth, the young people of this country. Is that a strategy that's going to serve them well in the long run, given the kind of growth that they would like to target?
Absolutely not. If you want to target 2 groups that are disinclined to vote, it would be the youth, it would be the unemployed. For all elections are a 3-way race for the voter. I can vote for my preferred party, I can defect, or I can abstain. And what this figure here shows is that people are preferring to simply withdraw, abstain. It's easier not to do anything than to vote for than to defect to another party. So less than 1 in 5 people aged 18 to 19 register to vote. So it's a very low participation rate, and if you're going to appeal to that cohort, your growth prospects are very limited.
Let's talk about Gauteng, because that's obviously been one of the regions and the provinces that's been watched very closely. We're sitting at just under 80% of the final tally in at this stage. The ANC at one point did dip below that psychological 50% mark. It seems that has been bumped up again and again. We've got a picture of exactly how things look in terms of the electoral map. How do you interpret what has happened in Gauteng, given once again the steady decline we have seen from their highest point in 2004 at 68%? They're now sitting at the halfway mark.
Well, obviously what seems to be happening is a lot of disaffected ANC supporters are swinging towards the EFF. And it's not apparent over here, but what happens, a lot of disaffected DA supporters are basically abstaining. So we have, to a large extent, a disengagement by many of the electorate. And that is a major concern. So in Gauteng, we actually have very little swing in terms of voting stations. The voting stations pretty much follow the old traditional winners.
Patterns,
but what happens, EFF is able to get support across demographics. across people that are disaffected.
Here's the thing. People will argue that, look, it's the way of democracies all around the world. As we mature as a democracy, people will probably, as we keep going, tend to or be inclined to vote less often. It's just a simple sign that, democracy is settling in the country.
It certainly is. But just remember what goes with that. And what goes with that is a very low youth participation rate. A very low participation rate by people that are marginalized. And as our politics normalizes, our hope that the youth get involved, our hope that the marginalized communities get involved will wane.
What's the old quote? Ultimately, the result reflects not the will of the majority, but the will of the majority who participated. We'll leave it there. Michael O'Donovan, thank you very much for your analysis. Michael O'Donovan, of course, is a data analyst, crunching the figures and trying to help us make sense of what these pictures mean. Stay with us.